Seats and let's get started.
Good morning.
Good morning. I got one good morning. That's good. Okay, Chris is not going to be here today, so he asked me to kick off the meeting. First thing I want to say is that,
Who are you?
who are I? I don't have my name tag. I'm sorry, Tony Quattromani. I'm going to be speaking. You'll see my name up there later. I'll be speaking. I'm the Technology and Communications Committee. So, first announcement is that the day is arriving quick for the renovation of the tavern. Starting Monday. Okay, starting Monday. Starting the 1st, which is Sunday. The tavern will be closed. Of course, it's always closed on Sundays. But it'll be closed for about a week. They're going to be taking all the furniture and equipment and so forth out. Then construction commences, and it'll go for the rest of the month, and I'm not sure when it'll be finished, but we'll have announcements.
July 1st.
July 1st.
Thank you. All of me.
2 months. So maybe well, anyway. Okay, Robin wants to say something first.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here to, what do I need to do?
Yeah, right there is fine. Thank you.
Hi. I'm here as representing FLIPRA and as a continuing saga of voter education and the activities that FLIPRA is sort of spearheading this time of year. The next thing that's coming up is this Friday, and I commend it to all of you. This is a presentation by one of the candidates for Charlie Crist's seat for the 13th Congressional District in Washington. His name is Eric Lynn. Mr. Lynn, as far as I can tell, is the only candidate who's running who actually has federal experience. He worked during the Obama administration, and I think he could give us a unique perspective on what it's really like to get something done up there. Plus, which he sounds like just an interesting guy, so we recommend him. And we'll have others coming up in the future. We have several scheduled, we'll tell you later. But to make this program most successful, we need to know who you'd like to hear from. Almost everybody who's shown up so far was recommended by one of you. So please, let us know if there's a particular candidate or subject you'd like to hear about this time of year. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So next up with a construction update is Tim, and he's actually here this week. So, so Tim, come on up. We're delighted you're here.
Good morning, everyone. All right, so quick update. Past couple of weeks, we finished the underground work inside the building pad. The underground plumbing has been completed. The underground electrical has been completed. Can you hear me? No? Alright, try to get closer. We're gonna have a very quiet week this week. We're probably not gonna be here tomorrow and Thursday. We're going to remobilize on Friday. We're going to bring in excavators one more time. Next week is going to be very busy. We're going to be tying in the sanitary lines to the existing buildings. We're going to be tying in the storm lines. We're going to be grouting the existing sanitary lines and the manholes. So there'll be a lot of activity going on outside. We're also going to start work on the old bank, starting with the demolition and then going on to electrical and plumbing. So for the next 3 to 4 weeks, there's going to be a lot of work in the bank. And then towards the end of the month, we're going to take over your beauty salon for approximately 3 weeks. So from end of May to about the middle of June, you will not have the beauty salon available to you here. But I believe facility has provisions for that. Next Monday, we're going to have to close the temporary walkway on the by the pool building for 1 day.
Wednesday.
Monday.
Monday.
And then we're going to close it one more time the same Thursday, same week Thursday. So Monday and Thursday, the temp walkway will not be available. Thursday, we'll probably until lunch. We're gonna pour the concrete back and give us a little bit of time to let it set up and cure, and then it'll be open to you guys. The tree removal is, I don't have a final date yet, but it's going to be coming down within the next 3 weeks or so. When the tree does come down, the walkway will be closed one more time, just for your safety. And once I have a final date, I'll let you guys know when that happens. That's all I have for right now. Questions?
What tree are you gonna take down?
The tree right by the old bank.
Okay, that's fairly small.
No, that's a big tree.
There's two of them out there. You say right next to the bank?
Between the bank and the Utah Hall, it's right at that corner.
Okay.
Big oak.
The big live oak.
Do you really have to take that big tree down?
Unfortunately. I would have loved to say it, but it has to come down. The new covered walkway goes pretty much right through it.
Where's the walkway?
The new walkway that we're going to be building goes right through that tree. So the tree has to go.
Why can't we just use the temporary walkways? So why change the direction of the walkway?
Not easy. So it would have been engineered, designed, approved.
Could be changed.
It's a process. Yes, sir.
You use the critical path procedure for your construction projects?
Correct.
You do?
Yes. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are you removing the vault that's in the bank?
The vault is staying as is. It's
I was
just too
wondering.
heavy to move. Yes, sir.
What are the two holes in the walls? One on that side and one on this side? They're square holes.
Those are going to be for the duct.
For what?
The duct. Fresh air intake louvers. Yes, sir. You had a question?
Fresh air.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that when you did the work of the temporary walkway, that's an emergency exit, and that emergency exit is completely non-functional. The excavation has not been smoothed out, there's no way that that emergency exit is functional.
It's not functional in what way?
Well, A, it's barricaded off, B, the ground is completely torn up.
The ground is torn up outside of the walkway. The walkway itself is.
Absolutely, there's no way any resident can walk through there safely in an emergency. And you've got a sign that says emergency exit, but it's barricaded off.
I'll take a look at that. I believe it's open, but I'll take a look. All right, I'll take a look. Yes, sir. As far as the ground being torn up, the walkway is safe and sound. There's no reason
It's
to
the
go
exit
home.
off the walkway.
The exit off the walkway.
Yes,
There's a
the
sign.
the walkway leads you to an emergency exit off the walkway to the grassed area.
On the south side or the north side of the walkway?
It would be, can I finish, please? It would be on the west side, you exit west off the temporary walkway. It's completely torn off.
That's not right. I'll take a look at that right now. Any other questions? Yes.
When is the project gonna be finished?
Middle of October.
What?
Middle of October. Any other questions? It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Jesse Rosalie, your EVS director. I want to give you a few updates. One is a housekeeping update, and the other one is a future construction update for myself. So just so you know, we're going to start putting some service feedback cards in your mailboxes, just to see how the team members are doing. It will help us identify what areas we need to work on and perform some coaching if needed. The second update, I have decided to also construct my future. So unfortunately, my last day with Regency Oaks is next week. May 4th is my last day. It's been a true pleasure working here at Regency Oaks. It was not an easy decision because when you're happy, when you're comfortable, it's hard to jump to the next level. But as I mentioned, it is a big step in my career, and I'll be taking care of a big responsibility, and it's good for me and my family. So it's been a true pleasure. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your guidance. Thank you, Brent, for all your leadership. It's so easy, or so much better to work with such a great leader like Brent. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you.
Joanna Gucci would like to say something.
I come before you with two things that I am promoting. One is the trip to Francis Wilson Playhouse to see Charlie's Aunt. We're not doing it as a subscription, we're just taking money from you and buying a ticket for you at a reduced rate with the bus, and I'm handling all of it. And I had a deadline of the 30th, and as of date right now, I have 5 tickets. I have to have 13 in order to get a special rate. I have to have 8 people for the bus. So if you want to go to Charlie's Aunt, you've got a deadline. Now the other thing that I'm promoting is these wonderful scarves. They really do keep you warm, because I'm warm in here. They're beautifully done. The person who knitted them wanted to be anonymous, but it's Sally at our desk. Don't tell her I told you. So I'm out there raffling them now. If you didn't bring any money, that's okay. I can trust all of you, and I will be very glad. There are 4 different kinds. The funds from the raffle will go to the scholarship fund, and so I hope you support both and get a beautiful scarf as well.
Thank you, Joanna. I think that's it.
I got one more. One more, turn it over to you. All right. So, Jeff, come on up here. I want to introduce Jeff Kane, a friend of Regency Oaks. I've known Jeff for over 20 years. You may have run into Jeff. He and his wife, Debbie, on Christmas Day, they come and sing carols over at the healthcare center. They've been doing it for years. And Jeff is the president, founder of Character GPS. He's here today to tell us about an exciting entertainment opportunity this Saturday. We're glad you're here.
Great to see you, Brad. Great to see all of you here at Regency Oaks, and I always look up to Brad, right? He's taller than I. Yeah, we used to work together over 20 years ago in a previous retirement community before Regency Oaks was lucky enough to grab Brad. So we're dear friends, and we love to come to Regency Oaks, love to see all of you. This is such a vibrant community. And my wife is a concert pianist, and she and I have a charity called Character GPS, your guidance system for life. And we're helping kids to get a clear understanding of who they are, what their talents are, and how to move forward in their life. And as you know, with the pandemic, it's been a real challenge for everyone, but especially our kids have been really, affected by this restrictions and for a while, virtual classes at home. But all during the pandemic, we kept classes in session so that we could interact with the kids, because they need that human interaction, need socialization. Of course, we do everything safely. But we love our Character GPS program because it helps kids to develop their talents and realize that they have a wonderful future. The lives that all of you have lived are so rich. And as Brad said, we love to come at Christmas, and Debbie plays the piano. I'm the sing-along guy and tell some bad Christmas jokes, to keep everyone laughing. So we love Regency Oaks. And so we thought, what a great opportunity, instead of just coming at Christmas. Debbie has piano students that she's again developing their talents. They're wonderful kids. And this is an opportunity for them to come play before a live audience, right? And of course it's a very friendly audience. They don't have to be critiqued like if they're in a piano contest. So they can come and really enjoy sharing their skills. So they've been really working hard on practicing some songs, and specifically wanted to kind of bring a little Christmas joy, since we like coming here with Christmas. And if you heard of Christmas in July, well, now we're going to start a new thing, Christmas in April with you, right? So that's our opportunity to come be with you. So what we wanted to do was invite, my phone keeps going off with different alarms here. So you see the flyer that has been circulating around. So we're going to come this next Saturday at 2 o'clock. So after you have a great lunch, to come over to the Grand Lobby South, And our kids, for the first time, will play on a baby grand piano, right? But they're very excited. Their parents are coming. They're all excited to see all of you. So we'd love to pack it in, many as you can come, to just experience the joy of young kids developing their talents and sharing what they love, their passion for music that Debbie has really instilled in them. And also with our Character GPS program, we are right now planning summer camps. And we realize that, you know, so many kids have been affected by this pandemic, but especially we're noticing 8th graders who are preparing for that big transition to high school. And we're realizing that they're not academically, socially, emotionally, spiritually really ready for that big transition. So a lot of our at-risk kids, so we're planning summer camps specifically targeted to 8th graders to help them kind of get a running start to get ready for high school. So we'll share a little bit more about that as well. But we love Regency Oaks. We're hoping you can come join us and meet my beautiful wife, Debbie, and our wonderful students that will be loving to perform for you on Tuesday again, or Saturday again at 2 o'clock. So thanks so much. God bless you, Brant. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. So next up, we've been talking about resident engagement, and you know that from the satisfaction survey that we did back in the fall, that was one of the opportunities that we identified as a community. And so we've been kicking it around amongst the board of directors and some of the management team, and we've been talking about how that also relates to communication. And Tony has put together a really powerful presentation. It's brief, but it talks about how we communicate and engage with one another. This is a powerful piece of information that he's going to share this morning. I think you're going to enjoy it. Tony, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Brad. Well, that was a good introduction, and let me just add to that. We did a lot of speaking or talking on the Regency Oaks resident organization, your organization, board of directors. And we needed to try to do something to improve communication, because through better communication, we can get the engagement of all of you to what is going on. So I took direction from the board, and with the help of Mary Ellen Gardner, Adrian, well there she is, Adrian Hager, and Ed Hawks, I put together this briefing, ran it back before my committee, and then I went to see Brant. I think it was 2 weeks ago that I briefed Brant in his office, and he said, "This is good. I'd like the department heads to hear this." So the following Monday at the weekly department head briefing, I gave this briefing to all of the department heads. And I think it was received fairly well. So I'm going to offer it to you now. This is not the overall solution. As you'll see, the solution to better communications rests with all of us. Next slide. That's a simplified view of communications. Somebody must start a communication. Somehow it has to start. I'm going to speak about each of these. In the middle, that's how the message gets to us. And as you'll see, there's quite a few avenues. And then at the end, that's us. If someone is sending it to us, how do we receive it? Next slide. The senders. Now the senders are not always the management here at Regency Oaks. The senders can be one of the residents. A good example, a few weeks ago, one of the residents said, "Let's have a night owl meeting." And that resident made all the information and sent it out, so that's a resident. The senders could be any of us. But these are the, I guess I could say, rules. If you're going to send out a message to someone, you have to have a firm understanding of what you're going to try to say. At the same time, you must clearly explain the action and the mention. Now I put what, why, when, and how. I think I would change that a little bit and say why, what, when, and how. And the perfect example of that was last week's discussion on reservations in the dining room. We started off with what? It probably would have been better if he said, we're having trouble in the dining room with new staff. We're trying to improve service. And one of the ways we want to try to improve that service is by instituting a reservation system. Not mandatory. That would have helped. Then he could have gone in, that's the problem, that's why. Then he could have explained what, when, and how, and that would have been the details. And I think that would have made that particular piece of communication easier to understand, and when it got to the engagement and the questions after that, it might have been a little more calm in the questions. Now, I should talk, I wasn't here, but that's beside the point. So know the audiences to receive the message. In this case, the audience was 300 and some odd people here. Not that we're odd, but we're old. And we all have our own opinions and we all have our own likes and dislikes. One of the dislikes for many of us is change. So know that and think about it when you write your message. And then encourage feedback. We didn't have to encourage much last week, there was plenty of it, but we need more, we need good feedback. And we want feedback that gives us suggestions, not just complaints. If you have a complaint and you say, I don't like this, this is what I suggest, that's good. But don't just simply say, that stinks. And I know that goes on in the rumor mill. And finally, time and critical. Make sure the residents or the receivers have time to understand the message. Now let's look at how we get messages passed here. Next slide. This isn't everything. It's a lot of them. We have lots of ways. We got the butcher paper, or the paper, the white paper in the two lobbies. We got the television screens. We got robocalls. Channel 732. I know it has problems, but it's there. Personnel contact. That should be personnel contact. Posters in the elevators and on the sign-up tables. Those are powerful. Those are powerful, those posters. When you're walking around and going through the lobbies, take a look at them. There's one that's going to be coming out soon. I was with Sam this morning and she was finishing a poster, and it's very clear. You'll like it. Whiteboards, I said, and the rural board, and there's more.
The Oaks.
Oh, the Oaks. Yeah, well, the Oaks, the calendar, the directory. I mean, there's lots of things. Choose the medium to satisfy the purpose. Speaking of the Oaks, if you want to put something in the Oaks, send a note to Joanna. She's going to edit it, make sure it looks good. And she'll make sure it fits. And I'm going to send you one this week as soon as I get my PC back. My PC's sick. Okay, let's look at the next one. The receivers. Now this is important. This is most of us. Listen, read, and understand. Take the time to understand what's being presented. Don't look at it only from your point of view. Look at it from the point of view of whoever sent it, or whatever sent it. Ask questions to gain clarification. Do you mean that everybody's going to have to make a reservation? No, but the reservations will help. Thank you. And provide a response to the message. Then I'll ask, if you're going to disagree, that's fine. You don't have to agree, but make suggestions to improve. And that's it. I hope I've come across clear. So please remember that for next time you get a message from someone. Thank you, Brent.
It won't work without that. All right. Give us just a second while we transition computers.
What is
We're just going to go through a couple of these. Okay, good morning. So with Tony's PC being sick and Jeff working off of a different PC, some of these slides we're just going to blow through because you've sort of already gotten the message. So the next slide is, there's our project update. Next slide. There's Jesse's announcement. Next slide. Jeff and Debbie Kane. Next slide. Insert Tony. Okay, so, taking a message, heed of the message that Tony just spoke about is I want to come back and try again on this reservation and see if we can't do a better job of explaining it. So why in the world would I be interested in doing this again? And it's not because I'm a glutton for punishment. It sort of might look that way, but it's because I think we can do a better job. Ultimately, I think this is something that the residents can get behind and support. And if we do a better job of helping you understand the why, maybe you'll have a better reaction than last week. So here's what prompted us to decide we needed to do something about this and address it. From the satisfaction survey we took back in September, 50% of the residents were not satisfied with our dining services. That's a large number. It's not 5% or 10%. It's 1 out of every 2. It's 50% of the residents. And I have always worked under the belief that once you know better, you are compelled to do better. It's not acceptable that you just say, okay, well, 50% of the residents are not with us. They don't like it. They're not happy with the service. They don't matter. They do matter. And so we're obligated to come back and say, okay, what can we do? How can we think outside the box? How can we go back and try to improve on the situation? And that's where we are today, is we need to do something because half of the residents told us directly that what we're doing isn't working. So we want to come back and take another look. So next slide. So this is a great slide that sort of helps you understand perhaps what the dilemma is. This is a Jimmy. He's over there in the north kitchen, and you can see he has a couple of strings. Those are orders that are coming in. This was taken at 5:04. So it's right after we've opened the dining room. Everyone is, our first seats have been, we've sat at the first table. People have gotten their juices and coffees. They've gone up to the salad bar, and now they're ordering entree. And so if you look at the 2 in his hand, you see on this side right here, these are the cold left side of the menu. Jimmy has the right-hand side. That's the hot tickets. Ferdy has stepped out of the picture. He was working the cold table. But if you count them, there are 24 that came out in a 2-minute period. 2 minutes, 24 tickets. Each one of those tickets isn't a single person. It's a 2-top, a 4-top, a 6-top. And so what do you think happens? We get overwhelmed. And so next slide, this is visually, this shows you what that looks like in the back of the kitchen. From 4:45, people are coming in, the dining room is open. It doesn't impact us too much. There are some people who are not going to go to a salad bar, not going to go to soup. They want to go directly to the entree. But right at about 5 o'clock, we peak with, and we are just overwhelmed with volume. And I've projected this out. I went back and I took a day from last week and just laid out, based upon our point of sale system, when those meals actually occur. And you can see the mass volume that occurs between 4:45 and about 5:15. And so how do reservations help? It evens off the flow. And so instead of having that peak of this massive volume that just completely overwhelms the cooks, the expediters, the servers, it sort of levels the playing field. And let's talk about reservations. Do you need a reservation at 5:45?
Probably not.
Nope. We only are seating about 20 people. We can manage that. Do you need a reservation at 6? No, because we can manage that. And so when we talk about, one of the great things about Regency Oaks from a socialization point of view is to, have the ability to come down and meet new friends and say, hey, let's go in and have dinner together. Are you eating with anyone? You're still going to have that ability to do that spur of the moment because you don't need a reservation in off-peak hours. Does that make sense? But imagine what a difference we could make if we were to take the front part of that curve and flatten it out. Next slide. Here's what would happen. We'd get better quality. The hot food would be served hot. The cold food would be served cold. It actually would reduce the waiting times, not increase it, and we'd have higher satisfaction. That's what our belief is. And let's go back one. I know we went forward, let's go back one. So I brought show and tell because I think this will help illustrate the point. So at 5:45, if I have chicken, this is what they're going in. Chef is cooking 6, 8, maybe 10 pieces of chicken. This is a third of a steam table pan. And so when he serves out of something this small and it's freshly cooked, this is called batch cooking. When he serves out of something this size, what's going to be like? The food's going to be hot, it's going to be fresh, it's going to be tender. Here's what we serve out at 5 o'clock. This contains 80 servings. If you get the top piece of chicken out of this batch, you're going to have a pretty good piece of chicken. What do you think your chicken's going to taste like if you're at the bottom of that? It's going to be rubber. And that's the difference between banquet style dining, and all of you have attended banquets and conferences, and you get the rubber chicken dinner. This is why they're serving 200 people in 20 minutes. This is what you get when you get sit down dining. And so that's the advantage of trying to flatten this curve, is it's going to allow us to give you a higher quality of food with less weight. Hot food's going to be served hot, cold food's going to be served cold. Do you absolutely have to make a reservation on the front end? No, you don't have to make a reservation, but here's what's going to happen. Just like when you go to a restaurant, my wife and I decided last night to go to a restaurant, and I got home about 7:30 last night, so we were at the restaurant by 8 o'clock. Do you think we waited? Nope. Did I have to make a reservation? Nope. But on Friday night last week, I got off a little early, and I was home at 5:30, and we went to dinner, and we had to wait about 20 minutes. Same thing is true with restaurants as it is here. With the reservation system, you can make a reservation and wait in your apartment, or you can show up at the door and say, no, I don't have a reservation, but there's a party of 4 of us, and we're going to say, absolutely, we're happy to accommodate you. We're going to put you on the wait, and you'll get the first available table. But it's going to go behind the reservations. And so I just think it will flow better and make more sense if you use reservations. One more observation that I would share is we went to the reservation system with the Tavern on April 1st. Look how well that's been working. I haven't had a single resident come up to me and say, boy, your reservations at the Tavern are really bad, it's not working. they're working great. And so I know that change is hard, and there's resistance to change at any age. It's not just us seniors, but we really think this is something that will benefit our residents, and we're interested in giving this a shot. And let's see how this works. We'll take your input as we go, and we'll come back and evaluate it in 30 and 60 days. But we really think this is the way forward. Any questions on reservations?
When will it start?
Do you have any idea? You don't have any idea, do you? I don't know. Yeah. There was such pushback last week that we said, okay, stop. We just got to go back and do some more communication. So I'm not sure we have a go forward date. Dining is meeting next Tuesday for further discussion.
All right. Thank you. Let's go back to your original premise. You say that it's because on the surveys, 50% of us were not satisfied. That's a very vague term. How many of us said we don't like it because it's crowded at 5 o'clock? And we were also on buffet at the time. So yeah, our food was not hot, it was not cold, because we were working with buffet. So to make changes to affect that problem when it's not the same problem seems to be overkill.
So yes, absolutely. Let's face it. We did the survey at a really bad time. Everything was shut down. We had COVID in the building. Activities were shut down. Dining, housekeeping, maintenance, transportation, everything was shut down. And so did that have an impact on the scores? Yes, we think it absolutely did. Are we able to quantify it? We're not. What we do know is that in the 70 pages of verbatim comments, there was an awful lot of discussion about some of the dining issues. Here's why we think they are still prevalent, is how many of you who eat at this early hour are having to wait, either in the dining room or in the lobby. Well, yeah, all of you. That's why we know it is still an issue. And so, we're confident that continues to be an issue that needs to be addressed. Judy?
And when people are waiting, they are bitching, loud and clear and long.
All right, be nice to me. They're bringing you a microphone, but you need, but please be nice to me. You're next.
I'm not looking for fault at all. The only thing that I would suggest is that because we have, as I understand, some staff that does, they call them no-shows. And of course that puts the pressure on our servers. But what really is the problem is that because it takes longer, then what you book at 7 o'clock, you're going to be late or you are not able to attend. So maybe you should start 7:30 your programs so that you don't miss out on
And so Margaret raises a good point. And so the question is maybe part of this pressure is to get in early because at 6:30 you have something you want to do or participate in. And so if we moved those events back to 7 o'clock, maybe that would take the pressure off of the front end. And Margaret points out that although that's true, we also then have people who say, well, no, I don't want to go at 7 because it won't be over till 8:30, and that's too late, 9. And so, people want to retire and get back to their homes. And so it's striking a balance. A very good point.
Brad, I want to thank you. And in front of everybody, I'll say this, that after last week's meeting, you and I had a private conversation about it, and you promised that you would come back and explain it. And I think the explanation is very clear. I think it's very good. And I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you, Bill. Happy to do it.
Brent, over here.
Where are we? Ah!
I think one thing that happened in the tavern is you scared everybody. You said everybody's gonna show up at whatever, 5 o'clock or something, and you'll have to wait and you can't get in and everything, and so they didn't come. I think that's what happened with the tavern, because we were in there, we made a reservation, there were 4 couples. So the tavern is open, folks. But I think part of the issue is a lot of people cannot eat late at night, late in the evening. They get up early, they eat early, and that's part of our issue. I don't know if reservations maybe will encourage those who don't have to eat early to eat later, but that's part of the issues because that's how they eat.
Sure, absolutely. And so it's just this one period, 4:45 to 5:15. It's only a 30-minute period, but if we can just flatten that out, you're going to see improvement in the service delivery in our dining rooms.
I feel that I'm a fairly responsible person, and there probably are other ones. And now that I have seen the graph, I will try not to come at 5 o'clock, but I would like to leave that up to me, not up to reservations.
Absolutely.
I think that if we don't have a meeting that night, and we don't have to be someplace, use your conscience. Try to come at 6 o'clock, and then we don't need a reservation at 6, right?
Yes, that's right. Well said. Mitch, we'll get you a mic. We got, something back here.
I'd just like to mention, it's not just the evening meals. For my friends and I, Sundays are very difficult. We've sometimes waited 40 minutes or more in the lobby area outside the north dining room. Lots of people are unable to get to the south for evening dinner. They can't walk there, they don't want to use the transportation, and in fact, they miss out on a lot of activities. They can't come over here, it's too far for them to walk. But I do feel Sundays is difficult because they do the brunch, and everybody loves that, and a lot of people from the south come over, which we like having them, but it just makes a problem waiting, and really it becomes very difficult. Thank you.
Sunday reservations. All right. Any other? One more, Mitch here. We're getting you a mic so we can all hear you.
But you take a survey and find out the 4:45 would help. You leave the 4:45 opening, 4:30 open would help. You leave at 5 o'clock.
They have carry-outs.
Carry-outs.
Yeah.
How about say if people want to go to the dining room at 4:30 instead of 5?
If we had fewer carry-outs, we could move. We'd have some flexibility, but we're doing so many carry-outs. Pre-pandemic, we did about 30 carry-outs. Today, we're doing up to 180. And so it's our carry-out time got expanded. So I don't have any room on that front side. But yes, you're right. If I back to 30 carry-outs, I could move those dining hours down to 4:30. All right, we're going to go to the next slide. And Lou, dim the lights. Thank you, sir. So I just want to talk a little bit about COVID. I just have maybe 3 or 4 slides. This is what's happening in the United States. And you can see back there on February all the way through March, 1st of March, we were at 1.9% positivity rate in the United States. And that's when we started watching what was happening over in China and then Europe, and then tracking it as it started to move across the ocean and into the United States. And so we've seen a pretty steady increase, 2.3, 3%, 3.8, 4.9. This last week it was a 6.1% positivity rate in the country. And so next slide. So here's this map. You'll remember we looked at this is either 2 or 3 weeks ago, And you'll remember there was some outbreak at Philadelphia and New York, but you can see how this has spread just in the last 2 weeks. This is, every one of the dots is cases per 100,000 residents. And so Florida, although we have cases, when you look at it in terms of cases per 100,000 people, Florida is still pretty clear, as is Louisiana, some of the Midwestern states that are lessly populated. And so we're, it's here, but it's not impacted us to the extent that it has in some of the other regions. Is this going to get worse? It is. And so this is all the BA2 variant of Omicron, and that's almost exclusively what they're seeing in hospitals and urgent care centers right now. Next slide. Here's the one slide that I want to share because it's sort of concerning. This is for the United States, and if you look at the new daily reported COVID cases, week over week, it grew by 30% last week. That's a really high number. And so when you say, well, you know, Brant, you're looking at these, the graph, how do you know that's going to continue to grow and expand? It's because of this number right here. And so our positivity rate here in Florida is just a little over 5%. And so it has grown, and it's going to continue to grow. Here's the other thing we know about BA2. We know it's highly contagious. It's the most contagious of all the viruses. We know that it's not as likely to take your life as some of the early variants. The death rate is down week over week, 19%, and so it continues to fall away. And then we see the hospitalization rate, and so hospitalization rate is up. BA2 will make you sick, but it won't take your life. We know that the symptoms tend to be mild or moderate if you have had 2 jabs and a booster. And so that's where we stand week over week. Now, here at Regency Oaks, each of you should have gotten a call yesterday. We have had some COVID activity. 2 weeks ago, we had an exposure over in the health center. It affected 2 people. They have both completely recovered, and we've been testing on a weekly basis. The health center is clear. Late last week and yesterday, we had some new cases here in the independent living. It was the North Building, and we currently have 4 residents with COVID who are isolated and recovering. They're going to be fine. Their symptoms are mild to moderate. We've done all of the contact tracing. If you were exposed, we've already contacted you. If we haven't contacted you, you haven't been exposed. But please know that if you are symptomatic, don't hesitate to call Leslie or Maria, and we can arrange to have you COVID tested if you're symptomatic and have any symptoms whatsoever. The primary symptoms with BA2 are dizziness and fainting. That's a new symptoms that we haven't seen in previous variants of COVID. And then it's headache, runny nose, sore throat. They're more of the cold and flu symptoms that are more traditional related to influenza than with COVID. So we'll continue to monitor this and keep you updated. At this point, we still don't think it's necessary to go back to mask. We don't think restrictions are required. We are not going to yet change any of the entry procedures for families and visitors, but we will continue to monitor this to make sure that we're taking the necessary steps to keep you safe. All right, is there anything else? I think that's it. All right, we'll open it up for any questions.
Are there going to be any more boosters?
So the question is, are there going to be any more boosters? And so always start with your physician, your personal physician. He knows your situation best, and he can make a recommendation if you have an underlying condition and he thinks you need to have that fourth booster. Regency Oaks is following the guidelines of the CDC, the Center for Medicare Studies, and the Department of Health. And those guidelines right now say that you're better off to wait for that fourth booster until the positivity rate increases. The lifespan of that booster shot is about 6 months. So if you take it when the positivity rate is low, if 5 months from now that positivity rate jumps up, you're not as well served as waiting for that positivity rate to increase before you take the booster. So that's the guidelines of the CDC, Department of Health. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming out. One more announcement. I am not here. I'm not here next Friday. So there is not, the forum is going to be moved to the following Tuesday. And I think it's from the 6th to the 10th. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate. Oh, yeah.
I'd like to make a couple observations.
You'll hold on a minute now. Don't go away. I got some startling figures for you. One of the reasons why it was important for that intersection, Sunset Point and Sewell Road, to be better taken care of was the fact that this is a county map of all of the vehicle activity in the county. But when you look at our neighborhood, it's kind of interesting. Now, how many cars do you think pass that intersection on a daily basis? How about 17,500? That's each day. Now, if you go down to the intersection for Highway 19 in Sunset Point, it's astronomical. For an example, you got over 100,000 vehicles, and that's the same number or a similar number no matter which road you're on when you approach that intersection. So that gives you some idea of how important it is to have a good, safe intersection. And that reminds me, somebody, I forget, Chet. Did Chet leave? I guess he did. But he was curious about putting a stop sign up out here at the north gate because people come around that corner. They're on Union. They cross over Sewell Road and they come down the road and make that turn to go out, probably in most cases, to McCormick so they get on Highway 19. But you see people, when they turn the corner, they sometimes drift out a little bit.
Yep.
And, you know, and I ride the bike out there every morning, so I see it all the time. And you have to think, well, maybe we ought to make them stop. And that's the idea. So you got to figure out first, is that a county road or a city road? The Clearwater might be involved, but I'm working on that for y'all. Now, there's one other thing I want to make an observation about, and this doesn't show up in the construction plans, but I couldn't help but think about it because there's not enough colorful decoration in our homes here, and on the campus, and I like to have things a little bit more cheerful. So I was aware of the fact that murals are being developed for the side of different buildings, whatever they may be, office buildings, warehouses, factories, whatever. And so I started thinking, well, maybe we should put a mural up on that south side wall when it's finished that would not only benefit us in general, but also the people who lost the trees when they look out. And the hallway rumors say that those people had to pay an enhancement fee for that view. Well, if that's true, then maybe we could enhance the wall and make it look better. And it's interesting, there's one man that has really made a profession out of this. He specializes in painting murals on different walls that reflect the activity of the bees. And at one side you have the bee activity, and at the other side or the other end, you have flowers that the bees are always aiming at. And when you see one of these, you're going to turn your head, I promise you. It's just another way to decorate outside. So I don't know who's in charge of painting the walls, but something like this would be of interest, I would hope.
Thank you. We'll pass that on to Building and Grounds with interest.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you showing up.